Welcome to the news on Zodiac with me, Chance Mozobanda. First, the headlines. Bishop Vwe calls for sustainable measures to empower people affected by floods in Nkhani. Pressure group Malawi Fest suspend its planned demonstrations against tax stamps. Minister of Transport and Public Works Jacob Hara challenges construction industry in Malawi to be innovative. And in other news, Niger cut diplomatic ties with Ukraine. Those were the headlines. We now give you the news in detail. Bishop Joseph Vwe of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Malawi says there is need to put in place sustainable measures in empowering people affected by floods in Nkhani. The church leader suggests that the people be supported through winter farming, among other initiatives. He was speaking after donating food items to people that were affected by the floods. Winston Kaimira reports.
Thousands of people that are affected by floods in Nkhani district continue facing challenges months into the recovery period of the disaster. Most of the flood survivors lost businesses and crop fields, leading to food insecurity. Bishop Joseph Vwe of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Malawi has since called for sustainable ways in provision of support to the people. Bishop Vwe was speaking after donating food items to people that were affected by the floods in the district.
As Evangelical Lutheran Church in Malawi, but also as Evangelical Lutheran Development Service, which is our service department, we usually allow the government to lead the way. So whatever the government is doing, we try and follow suit with our activities. So we can see that sustainable activities are the ones now to follow. For example, to accompany them in their farming efforts, to also grow winter cropping, to ensure that they can end hunger, but also at the same time begin to reduce their poverty, have food almost all year round.
It disclosed that the church is conducting an assessment to provide more support. Some of the flood survivors, Ruth Christopher and Gladys Kwende, have since commended the church for the support. The church is also providing support to such survivors in Salima, Balaka and Mangochi. Winston Kaimira, Zodiac, Kota.
Youth Progressive Environmental Solutions, YPES, a youth group focusing on environmental issues, has emphasized the importance of involving more young people in ensuring environmental preservation. YPES CEO Mwale highlighted the need to leverage the internet, where many young people are active, to effectively communicate conservation messages. Mwale made these remarks in Lero at the launch of YPES' new website designed to provide Malawians with easy access to vital information on best environmental management practices.
With funding from Save the Children, we have decided to launch these manuals. To develop these manuals at least nursery establishment and outdoor establishment and management. And also we have developed a manual for brigades production. This is the training manual, and also have launched the website, which will help us to reach more people. As in, the website is not only for us, but also other people can use it and can find the material resources available on the internet. They can use them as the manuals will be available on the website. So these manuals, they will not only help us to reach out to other people, but also those other partners that are interested in using the manuals. On the website, you'll find the homepage, and also you find what we do as Youth Progressive Environmental Solutions. All the information, you find it there. On the manuals, you find the practical information on how you can do, you can make map briquettes, and also the practical information that you can use to establish a trainer stand up to when the trees are fully.
And Government Representative Clement Kiwa affirmed government's commitment to supporting young people and youth organizations in their environmental conservation efforts.
As government, we are very happy because what YPS has done is in line with the government policy. You may be aware that the National Environmental Policy of 2004, one of the objectives is to promote information, education, and outreach. So the manual which has been launched and the website, I think, will go a long way in promoting information, education, and outreach in the country. We toured some of the displays which YPS has displayed. We have seen how briquettes can be made simply by local people in the villages. You might be aware that one of the challenges that the country is facing is deforestation, and we are confident that as government that what YPS has done will go a long way in empowering the local communities to find alternative energy sources. In terms of assisting such organizations, government has got a number of mechanisms in place. What is important is to encourage partnerships between the organizations and government, because under some government programs there are windows whereby such organizations can get resources. For example, under the Malawi Environment Protection Authority, we have the Carbon Fund, which is open for councils and other organizations also, where they can apply for funding to promote such initiatives to conserve the environment.
Minister of Transport and Public Works Jacob Hara has challenged the construction industry in Malawi to be innovative and build better, sustainable and resilient infrastructure. He was speaking in Mangochi at the 7th International Construction Conference. Hara emphasized that what may seem cheaper initially often becomes costly for taxpayers due to high maintenance costs. Rafael Mozo filed this report.
Hara emphasized that quality should be maintained, saying building better Malawi will only be achieved if the construction industry gives people what is durable. For example, he said it's better to build a 5-kilometer road and last for 40 years than 100 kilometers that will need maintenance on a year basis.
This place, basically the contractors, the manufacturers, suppliers of construction equipment, etc. That it's about time we begin to think about outside the box on how best we can move as a country. We know that we've had financing issues and financing problems, but we can think around the box. Why don't we, for example, privatize roads? Why don't we build more tolls? Ask those that have money to come and build the roads and let them collect, say, for 30 years or 20 years. After that, they leave us with a good road. People will have been driving on good road.
National Construction Industry Council of Malawi, NCIC Chief Executive Officer, Engineer Gerard Konje, prayed that as a regulatory body, they will ensure the industry remains innovative, adaptive, and excels in its endeavors.
As you would see, some of the infrastructure that is coming out, for example, roads, you would see there is a distinct difference in terms of quality. You can appreciate these roads are built to last, and that is the spirit that we are creating as an industry.
That as a regulatory body, they will ensure the industry remains innovative, adaptive, and excels in its endeavors.
As you would see, some of the infrastructure that is coming out, for example, roads, you would see there is a distinct difference in terms of quality. You can appreciate these roads are built to last, and that is the spirit that we are creating as an industry.
Standard Bank CEO in Malawi, Phil Madinga, assured the construction industry that the bank is open to support those with innovative ideas. The 3-day conference, which concludes this Friday, is being conducted under the theme Innovate, Adapt and Excel, a quality-driven construction industry, and has attracted participants from other countries like Zambia, Tanzania, and United Kingdom. For ZBS, this is Rafael Mlozowa reporting.
Spark Systems Limited has emphasized the need for stakeholders in the banking sector to prioritize information technology solutions to maximize the number of people accessing banking services, which is still on the lower side. Company's Director of Technical Support Services, Chikondi Koloko, says as the world is fast going digital, it is very hard to separate the banking industry from the IT sector.
It's very crucial because they are talking about bridging the gap now that's in terms of banking inclusive banking as well as the sustainable development for all. So what this means is there are still some people, there are still some population which is not able to access some of these financial services. So how do you bring that? How do you bridge that gap? Now that's where these IT solutions are coming in. So things like mobile banking solutions will be crucial to bridge that gap. So we are looking forward to having a very good conference whereby we can maybe have we can be able to understand the challenges on the ground as well as other discussions around the same area.
And a representative of the Bankers Association of Malawi, Nkhani, has held the gesture, arguing that it will help to make the conference a success.
So this year, in terms of the theme, you will see that we're looking at discussing what we're calling bridging the gap. What we want to discuss is inclusive banking and sustainable development, because we've seen that we have quite a number of people that are still unbanked here in Malawi, and there are things like policies, among other things, that perhaps people think this is not something that we can do in terms of banking. Perhaps we find other modes of saving our money, among other things. So as a Bankers Association of Malawi, we've actually thought that this year let's go and discuss inclusive banking. How do we, achieve that here in Malawi? So we're going to discuss, among other things, policies, innovative solutions. As you've already seen, we've talked about Spark coming in as a sponsor, but then at the end of the day, we also know that Spark Systems Limited also do provide some financial solutions that banks are already using. So we want to discuss with these players, among others, to say, in terms of innovative solutions.
The National Organization of Nurses and Midwives in Malawi has constructed 6 houses for survivors of the March 2023 tropical cyclone Freddy at Katuma in Mulanje district. Speaking on Tuesday after handing over the houses to beneficiaries, Minister of Health Kumbize Kandoli Chiponda said what the nurses and midwives have done is a manifestation of caring for people beyond health facilities. NONIM President Charles Meza said as nurses and midwives have a role to provide rehabilitation services to the disadvantaged, in this case the disaster-affected families, hence constructing the houses for the 6 families. Hastings Juman with the details.
The 6 houses, which the National Organization of the Nurses and Midwives in Malawi, NONIM, has constructed at Katuma village in the Mulanje district for the survivors of the March 2023 tropical cyclone Freddy, were handed over to the beneficiaries on Tuesday. Minister of Health Kumbize Kandoli Chiponda, who presided over the handover ceremony of the houses, said what the nurses and midwives have done is a manifestation of their care for people beyond the rooms of the health facilities. Chiponda challenged NONIM to ensure that the 6-house compound, which has been named Namwino village, is a model to other villages.
We have called this village that it is a Namwino village. So my call to our nurses and midwives was that it has to be a model of village if it is called a Namwino village. Because Namwino, what do they stand for in terms of hygiene? Namwinos, what do they talk about in terms of sanitation? Naminos, what do they tell us in terms of the kind of food which you have to eat? So we are saying let's make this one a model village.
NONIM President Charles Meza said as nurses and midwives, they have a role to provide rehabilitation services to the disadvantaged, in this case, the disaster-affected families, hence constructing the houses for the 6 families.
Nursing is preventive, curative or treatment and rehabilitation. So our colleagues went through the tragedy and now they went into the phase of rehabilitation. So we thought about it, how would we help our colleagues in the process of rehabilitation. So we thought of mobilizing resources and build a small house like it is, 6 of them, for them to settle in as they recover in the process that they went through.
One of the beneficiaries is a child-headed family, and the head of the family, Rebecca Kaipa, aged 18, said together with her 14-year-old sister, now they have a house after sleeping in a shack for a long time. Nonmu, according to Semeza, spent 51 million kwacha to construct the 6 houses, and the funds were contributed by the nurses and midwives, but he said a larger chunk came from the direct relief of United States of America. For Zodiac in Mulanche, this is Hastings Jimani reporting.
The Ministry of Education has implored private sector players to invest in higher education as Malawi strives to increase access to quality education for sustainable development. Deputy Minister for the Ministry, Nancy Chaula Mdoko, made the call in Lilongwe at the graduation of 502 students from UNICAF University from Malawi and other countries who have graduated with bachelor's, master's and doctoral degrees.
As a ministry, we are committed to see to it that we improve the quality of education, and UNICAF University as one of the private universities is also contributing. UNICAF University as one of the private universities is also contributing. We also want to see to it that our youth.
UNICAF University's Vice Chancellor in Malawi, Dr. Robert Lidley, said the university is happy that it continues to contribute to the promotion of science, knowledge and learning and research for the benefit of the society.
For the individuals, it's clear that they've reached a dream and a goal that they've had for a long time. They're studying online, which requires a lot of dedication. But the flexibility means that they can maybe take a slightly longer time to do the degrees. So for the bachelor's, they may have been studying between 3 and 6 years. For the master's, between 2 and 5 years. For the PhDs, between 3 and 7 years. So it's a long journey. They're happy, and I think that's also demonstrated by the number of people that come from outside the country to celebrate the degrees. For us as a university,
you're watching the news on Zodiac with me, Chancellor Mozabanda. We'll be back after this break.
nazi zifukwa zikupangitsa kuti anthu ambiri tsopano azimwa parapene akamva mutu, maperiod pains, kuphwanya mthupi komanso kupweteka kwa mano. Mphamvu nthawi pang'ono ukamwa ululu wonse umatheratu. Mapangidwe yake ndi odabwitsa chifukwa mukangomwa nthawi yomweyo amasungunuka ndi kulowa m'misempha yonse yomwe muli ululu. Muyeseni parapeni lero ndipo simudzafunanso mankhwala ena.
disappointment in heaven.
Kodi mukulingalira zowamangira chiriza okondedwa malemu abale wanu? Kampani yanu ija yotsogola ya Tile Masters ili pano kukuthandizani. A Tile Masters amapanga ziliza za granite, za matiles komanso za terazo zolimba, zapamwamba komanso zokongola pa mtengo ochipa. A Tile Masters itu amakafika pena paliponse Malawi muno komanso lay-by amalola. Onetsani chikondi chanu komanso ulemu wanu omaliza kwa abale ndi anansi omwe anatisiya. Apezeni a Tile Masters lero kuti akakupangireni ziliza zamakono. Musabetse ndalama zanu kwa atambwali omwe angoti mbwe mtaoniwa komanso pa social media. Tawayimbirani foni a Tile Masters lero. Telefone 0999 206 701 kapena 0880 974 949. Kapena apezeni pa tsamba la Facebook la Tile Masters Malawi. Our departed loved ones deserve honor. Let's honor them. Tile Masters, trusted since 2003.
Sing glory around the white throne.
Welcome back. The headlines as we continue. Cut diplomatic ties with Ukraine. Now, moving on with the news, the pressure group Malawi Fest has announced the suspension of its planned demonstrations against tax stamps tomorrow. Its president, Bon Kalindo, says this follows discussions that took place involving representatives of Malawi Revenue Authority, Malawi Fest, and some business operators. He said the protests have been halted following an agreement by the trio that implementation of the tax stamps should be suspended pending further discussions with the Ministry of Finance and other stakeholders. While MRA insists that the tax stamps are meant to deal with smugglers, Malawi Fest and small-scale business operators think they punish traders to pay more.
This is exactly what we have agreed this morning. And as Malawi Fest, we are equally happy with the steps taken, and this is the right direction towards having a better Malawi. We should thank MRA for taking heed of the people's concerns, because this is the Malawi that we have, and if Malawians are suffering, authorities must listen. So we want to thank MRA for taking heed, for listening to the suffering. We will be going home a happy group because of what has happened today.
And Stephen Kapoloma is head for corporate affairs, MRA.
The meeting recognized smuggling as a significant problem impacting small businesses, public health through consumption of smuggled, counterfeit, and hazardous products. And collaborative efforts involving MRA, Malawi Fest, and businesses and other stakeholders are crucial in combating this challenge. The role of tax stamp should be limited to identifying goods that have been cleared through customs and meet the quality standards. Their application should be restricted to specified excisable goods and should not impose undue burden on small-scale businesses in terms of cost and administrative complexities. That all small businesses under the simplified trade regime will only be allowed to affix tax stamp until all administrative concerns have been addressed by MRA.
And the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament has implored the Malawi Revenue Authority to engage all the relevant stakeholders that have raised concerns with the introduction of the tax stamp regime on the imported goods. PAC chairperson Mike Bodoman said this on Tuesday in Lirongwe when his committee toured some porous borders which traders use to smuggle goods into the country. Bodoman said although his committee stamps its authority for MRA to go ahead with the implementation of the new tax measure, it feels opposing views are coming because people have not been fully informed.
Most of the issues that come our way are just issues that find us in Parliament and sometimes in the committees when we meet the Malawi Revenue Authority. but we've not had a hands-on experience as to exactly what happens on the issue of smuggling. But with what we have seen on this tour, and indeed the stories that we have heard from MRI and
Meanwhile, MRI Commissioner General John Biswick says engaging the parliamentary committee is one way of addressing the misunderstanding which people have on tax stamps.
For purposes of this discussion, there are three. One is the drones, which we talked about, that the drones should be able, we will be able to deploy the drones all over in our borders, and then the drones will transmit information which can be passed on to the ground staff and to know where the smuggling vehicles are. So that's...
In other news, Niger has cut diplomatic ties with Ukraine, a move which signals a burgeoning rift between some West African states and Kiev. Niger's military government said it made the move in solidarity with neighboring Mali, who severed their own relations with Ukraine 2 days ago. Both countries cited comments by a Ukrainian military official who suggested Kiev played a role in the killing of dozens of Malian soldiers last month. Ukraine has been trying to win allies in Africa throughout its war with Russia, likely in an attempt to counter Moscow's growing influence on the continent. At the end of July, scores of Malian soldiers, along with mercenaries from Russia's Wagner Group, were killed in clashes with separatist rebels and Al-Qaeda-linked militants. And that's what we had time for in this edition of the news. Before we leave, thanks for watching and goodbye.